What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Burnt. I want to start off today by saying a big thank you to everybody who's liked, subscribed, and followed my channel this far. It really means a lot to me. And if you're new here, please take the time to hit that subscribe button. I promise you won't regret it. So today, I want to dive into the pizza series that I started a couple weeks ago with my Uni pizza oven. But I want to dive into making dough from scratch. And since I've never done that before, I figured the best place to start is doing a deep dive into Google and seeing what we can come up with. So let's get over to my office and see what we find. Alright, so since I've never made pizza dough before, I figured the best place to start is by finding the recipe with the highest reviews on Google. So let's see what we can come up with. Let's do some deep Google search here. The best pizza dough recipe. See what we come up with. Okay. Wow, we already have a lot of options here. So let's see which one has the highest reviews. Okay, boom, right here at the top. Roberta's Pizza Dough. Oh my god, over 9,000 5-star reviews. I feel like that's where we have to start. Okay, it makes two 12-inch pizzas and 20 minutes plus at least 3 hours rising. Okay, so this recipe, oh, perfect, I got a video here. Let's check that out.
We're here to make basic pizza dough, just like you get in great restaurants. And I've gone to a great restaurant to get the recipe. We've got Anthony Falco right here from Roberta's Pizzeria in Brooklyn. We're gonna make pizza dough a lot easier than you think. We've got unbleached all-purpose flour, salt, and now you are adding 00 flour.
Yeah, this is the traditional flour of Italian pizza, Naples pizza.
We have water here, olive oil, and then we put in some yeast.
And then we're just gonna mix by hand.
Okay, so right off the bat, that's already a lot less ingredients than I was expecting. So it looks like we have 153 grams of 00 flour, 153 grams of all-purpose flour, 8 grams of fine sea salt, 2 grams of active dry yeast, and 4 grams of extra virgin olive oil. So this already seems pretty straightforward. It's just a matter of making the dough and letting it rest for a little while. So I think that's something that we can do. And if you want to learn how to make pizza dough with me, well, let's get into it. Alright, so now that we've decided to go with Robert's pizza dough recipe, let's go ahead and check out the ingredients that we're going to need. First, we're going to need 153 grams of 00 flour, 153 grams of all-purpose flour, 8 grams of sea salt, and 2 grams of yeast. And then we're also going to need about a cup of lukewarm water, and I believe it's a tablespoon of olive oil. So I got everything here. Let's go ahead and follow the instructions. Okay, so step 1. In a large mixing bowl, combine flours and salt. So we'll take the mixing bowl. We'll get both of our flours, the 00 and the all-purpose. Mix those in there nicely together. And we're going to also add our salt. All right, seems like that's step 1. Seems pretty easy enough. All right, now for step 2. In a mixing bowl, stir together 200 grams, a little less than 1 cup of lukewarm water, the yeast, and the olive oil. Then pour it into the flour mixture and knead with your hands until well combined, approximately 3 minutes. Then let the mixture rest for 15. All right, so let's put this to the side. Let's go ahead and get our yeast and the tablespoon of olive oil. Sorry, teaspoon. And now we're gonna add about a cup of lukewarm water. All right, so now we got our yeast, olive oil, and water in the mixing bowl. Let's go ahead and get this nicely mixed up. We want to get the yeast activated and get the mixture nicely even through the water so that when we pour it on the flour, we get a good mix. So it looks like we got everything nicely mixed here. Let's go ahead and add it into our flour. All right, so now we're just gonna knead with our hands. And in the video, he says we're mixing to combine. So let's go ahead and kind of go along with that. And that once it gets to a dough form, we'll go ahead and let it rest for 15 minutes. Okay, so this is my first time making this dough, or any dough for that matter. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this sit. It looks like we're about where he was in the video when he let it rest. So let's get it covered, get this off my fingers, and then in 15 minutes, we'll be back to start kneading. All right, so it's been 15 minutes. Let's go ahead and get the dough and begin to start kneading it. So here, get some flour on the table. We don't want it to get stick. be careful with your flour. It'll go everywhere. And, you know, you'll start finding it in places that you weren't expecting it. So, all right. So we're going to fold the top to the bottom and then press. We're going to turn, fold top to bottom, and press. Turn, top to bottom, and press. The texture is definitely starting to smooth out here, which is nice. So we know that we're getting it done correctly. I need to start working out again. I'm starting to get out of breath. All right. So now that we got your dough kneaded, the next step here says cut into 2 equal pieces and shape into a ball. Place on a heavily floured surface, cover with dampened cloth, and let rest and rise for 3 to 4 hours at room temperature or for 8 to 24 hours in the refrigerator. So let's get this in half. These bad boys separated. All right, let's go ahead and get these into a ball. Looks about good. Put this over here. Smile big. Perfect. So we'll get that on the flour. And then we'll go ahead and get this covered and into the fridge and let it rest for about 24 hours. All right, so now that it's been about 24 hours, the recipe calls for the dough to sit at room temperature for about 30 to 45 minutes. So in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and get my uni oven prepped so that we can cook the dough and see how it turns out. All right, so now that we have the uni oven getting up to temperature, let's go ahead and get our dough stretched. So let's make sure that we got enough flour because we don't want the dough to stick. Here. Now in the video, he said he wanted the top to be the top and the bottom to be the bottom. So let's get flour on everything that we need here. Let's go ahead and start pressing the dough out. We're going to make our little movements for the crust. For all the pizza lovers out there that are watching this and cringing at how I'm doing this, I apologize. This is my first time, so... Well, not first time, but first time making dough. I'm still getting used to this. So, if you have any suggestions, leave it below. Now, let's get that on the peel and in the oven. All right, so right off the bat, this dough is absolutely fantastic. The flavor on it's great. It has a nice crispiness to the outside, a little bit of a char. It bubbles up nicely, so it has a nice little soft, airy texture on the inside. The first dough that I cooked, I put in the oven when the flame was way too high on the top, so I did burn the top a little bit, but it still had that crispiness, but it didn't cook through all the way that I wanted to. So after the flame went down and the wood got to a nice burning ember, the temperature in the oven stayed around 900 degrees. But without any flame on top. So when I put this in, it allowed the dough to cook really nicely through, which I'm finding to be kind of like the best technique. Is initially when I was cooking on the oven, I thought, oh, more flame, the better, the hotter it's gonna be. But I was just burning pizza dough left and right. So now that I've kind of made my own dough and I'm learning the practices of what needs to go into making it and how long it takes, I'm being much more cautious with the pizza oven. So I rotated this one a little bit better. The texture on it is great. The flavor on it is fantastic. And the more and more I get comfortable making it, I think I'll, be able to create a better product. So the next step I think would be to making my own sauce. I might try a couple more doughs next time, but for now, I'm very happy with how this dough turned out. Okay, so for my first time making dough from scratch, I'm very pleased with how it turned out. Not only was the recipe easy to make, it was actually really tasty as well. And it's no surprise that it has that many 5-star reviews on it. But I bet that the more I do it and the more that I work with this specific recipe or other recipes for that matter, it's gonna taste better and it'll get better because I'll know how to knead it properly, stretch it properly, let it proof properly, and cook it properly. So all in all, I'm very happy with how this turned out. I did burn the first one, but the second one came out really nice. It had great texture, great flavor. It was nice and airy on the inside. And as I mentioned earlier, the next episode might be making sauce from scratch, but I might also dive back into some more dough recipes so that we're not missing out on anything, because I'd really like to try sourdough-based dough. So if you have a restaurant or a recipe that you love, leave that in the comments below because I would love to check that out. And as always, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on your notifications bell for the next set of burnt videos.